In today's breaking news, a massive legal blow has just landed on former President Donald Trump as a court has officially struck down his controversial tariff policies, calling them illegal and even dangerous. This decision is being described as ironclad, leaving no room for appeal or loopholes that Trump's team can easily exploit. For years, Trump promoted tariffs as the backbone of his America First economic strategy, especially in his battle with China, Europe, and other trading partners. He presented them as a tool to strengthen U.S. industries, protect American jobs, and reduce dependency on foreign goods. But this court ruling has completely shifted the narrative, showing that his approach may have been legally flawed from the very beginning. To understand the magnitude of this decision, let's first look at what tariffs actually are. In simple terms, tariffs are taxes imposed by a government on goods imported from other countries. The idea behind them is to make foreign products more expensive, pushing consumers to buy domestic alternatives instead. While this might sound like a solid way to boost local industries, it often sparks retaliation. When the U.S. imposes tariffs on another country, that country usually responds with its own tariffs, hitting back at American exports. This tit-for-tat escalation is exactly what happened during Trump's presidency, leading to what many called a trade war. Farmers, manufacturers, and small businesses across America felt the pain as foreign markets closed their doors to U.S. products. Prices of everyday items from steel to electronics rose, and global economic tensions soared. Trump's supporters, however, argued that these tariffs were necessary. They said China, in particular, was manipulating trade and exploiting loopholes to dump cheap products into U.S. markets. By raising tariffs, Trump was trying to force other nations to renegotiate trade deals on terms more favorable to America. In the short term, this strategy created headlines and the appearance of toughness. But in the long term, economists pointed out that it was American consumers and workers who paid the real cost. And now, with this court ruling, there is a new dimension. Not only were these tariffs economically questionable, they were also outside the legal boundaries of presidential authority. The judge's words are crucial here. By calling the ruling ironclad, the court is making it clear that Trump overstepped his powers as president. The U.S. Constitution and trade laws carefully define who has the right to set tariffs and under what conditions. While the president has certain emergency powers to protect national security, Trump's broad and sweeping tariff policies went beyond those limits. Essentially, the court is saying he took liberties with the law in order to push his political agenda. This is not just about economics anymore. It's about legality, accountability, and the proper balance of power in government. For Trump, this ruling is not only a political setback, but also a direct challenge to his image as a strong negotiator. He has long boasted that his tariffs reshaped global trade, but now critics have fresh ammunition, pointing out that his major economic weapon was, in fact, unlawful. This could also weaken his standing with voters who supported him on the basis of economic nationalism. While his base remains loyal, the broader American public may now see these tariffs as part of a failed experiment that hurt more than it helped. Let's also consider the global implications of this ruling. Countries like China, Canada, and members of the European Union had long criticized Trump's tariffs, calling them unfair and harmful to global trade. Now that a U.S. court has declared these policies illegal, it strengthens the position of America's trading partners who argued that Trump's approach violated international norms. This could open the door for smoother trade relations under future administrations as leaders seek to distance themselves from Trump's controversial legacy. It also highlights an important lesson. Unilateral decisions that ignore both international agreements and domestic laws rarely stand the test of time. On a deeper level, this ruling raises questions about leadership and responsibility. Trump often presented himself as a man who broke rules to get things done, portraying that as a strength. But breaking the wrong rules, especially legal boundaries, eventually backfires. Leaders must not only think about what feels strong in the moment, but also about what is sustainable, lawful, and just. This is a lesson that resonates not only in America, but across the globe, including the Muslim world, where many nations have also faced challenges from unfair trade practices and unequal global systems. The court's decision reinforces the idea that justice and fairness should guide economic policy, not just political ambition. Now let's talk about the impact on ordinary Americans. When tariffs were imposed, it wasn't just China or Europe that felt the heat. Everyday people in the U.S. were directly affected. Prices of basic goods like washing machines, automobiles, and even groceries went up. Farmers, many of whom supported Trump, suddenly found themselves unable to sell their products overseas because other countries had slapped retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Billions of dollars in government subsidies had to be paid out to keep these farmers afloat, essentially meaning taxpayers were footing the bill for Trump's trade war. With the court's ruling, there is now legal recognition that these hardships were not only economically damaging, but based on an unlawful policy. For the Muslim audience watching this, there is another dimension worth considering. Many Muslim-majority countries are deeply involved in global trade, exporting oil, textiles, food products, and more. Policies like Trump's tariffs disrupt global markets in ways that disproportionately affect developing nations, including those in the Muslim world. By undermining free and fair trade, such policies create instability that makes it harder for smaller economies to thrive. The Court's decision against Trump is a reminder that fairness and legality in trade are essential for global justice, something that aligns with the values of equity and balance emphasized in Islam. Policies built on arrogance and unilateral power often collapse, while those based on fairness and consultation endure. It's also worth noting how Trump himself is reacting to this. True to form, he has been quick to dismiss critics and frame himself as a victim of political bias. But the reality is that this decision was made in a court of law, by a judge applying the Constitution and trade statutes, not by politicians. This makes it much harder for Trump to spin the story as just another partisan attack. The language of the ruling, especially the term ironclad, leaves little doubt that the court is standing firmly behind its reasoning. This is not a gray area. It is a decisive legal statement that Trump's actions crossed the line. Looking ahead, this ruling may also set a precedent that future presidents must heed. It signals that there are limits to executive power, even in areas like trade and national security where presidents have often claimed wide discretion. This strengthens the system of checks and balances that is supposed to prevent any leader from acting like a monarch. For Trump, who often pushed the boundaries of presidential authority, this decision is a powerful reminder that, in a democracy, no one is above the law. For ordinary citizens, including Muslims living in America, this provides reassurance that legal systems can still uphold justice against powerful figures. Another important angle to consider is the economic aftermath. With Trump's tariffs now delegitimized, future administrations may feel emboldened to roll back similar policies and re-engage with global markets. This could bring down costs for consumers and restore opportunities for exporters. However, it also raises questions about whether America will continue to pursue a protectionist stance or return to a more cooperative role in international trade. The debate between globalization and nationalism is far from over, but this ruling tilts the balance toward legality and fairness rather than unilateral strong-arm tactics. Critics of Trump have long argued that his policies were more about political theater than genuine solutions. The tariffs became a symbol of toughness, a way to rally supporters who felt left behind by globalization. But in reality, these measures failed to deliver lasting benefits. Jobs that were supposed to return to America never fully came back, while industries dependent on global supply chains struggled. The court's decision underscores this failure, adding a legal stamp to what many economists had already concluded. This is a significant moment where politics, law, and economics intersect, and the result is a resounding rejection of Trump's approach. It is also important to reflect on the broader moral message here. Economic justice is not just about numbers and markets. It's about fairness, equity, and ensuring that policies do not harm the weak for the benefit of the powerful. Trump's tariffs, while advertised as protecting the American worker, often ended up hurting them while benefiting certain elites. The court's ruling brings this hypocrisy into the spotlight. In Islam and many other traditions, leadership is measured not by how loudly someone speaks or how forcefully they act, but by how justly they govern and how they protect the vulnerable. This decision highlights the gap between Trump's claims and the reality of his policies. Ultimately, this ruling is not just a legal setback for one man. It is a turning point in the ongoing debate about how nations should manage their economies, how much power presidents should have, and how justice should shape policy. It shows that even the most powerful leaders are accountable to the law and that policies built on shaky foundations will eventually crumble. The world is watching closely, and this decision will echo far beyond America's borders, reminding all nations that legality, fairness, and justice remain essential pillars of good governance.